With us now is Geil Bilu. Geil, it's good to have you back on the Shalom Show.
Very good to see you again.
Geil, we're going to talk about one of your passions, which is support of Israel, Friends of the IDF. It is interesting to bring up how Israel's Chief of Staff and former Prime Minister Ehud Barak visited Auschwitz with a unit a few years ago. Do you remember that? And he said, "We are here 50, 60 years too late, all in uniform, visiting Auschwitz." Dramatic moment. Anyway, tell our audience why it's so important for Americans in this country, people here and elsewhere, to support Israeli army soldiers.
The Israeli army soldiers, they represent our children, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our friends. They're people that we all know. They're our brothers, they're our sisters. We need to take care of them. They are out every day risking their lives to protect the citizens of Israel, to make the world free, to keep a stable democracy in a region that knows literally no democracy. I think Ehud Barak's appearance at Auschwitz really brings the point home, is ultimately as Jews, we have no allies to rely on. We have to understand that we live only at the mercy of our host countries for as long as it's politically convenient. The only true home we have is in Israel. When we needed help in the 40s, nobody jumped to our aid. Had there been in Israel, those tracks would have been bombed, those trains never would have gone anywhere, those concentration camps would have been demolished before they could take one Jewish life. The point is that they can't. And ultimately, we might be Americans, we might be British, we might be French, Spanish, Colombian, Brazilian, what have you. In the end, at the end of the day, we are Jews. And because we are Jews, we need to support a state of Israel. Whether you think it should be a secular state or a religious state, it is the only home that we truly have. I'm reminded of a quote by Albert Einstein when he first presented his theory of relativity. And what he said was, if my theory of relativity is proven correct, the Swiss will claim that I am Swiss, the French will claim that I am French, the Germans will claim that I am German. But if relativity proves to be false, the Germans will say I'm Swiss, the Swiss will say I'm French, the French will say I'm German, and the Germans will say I'm a Jew.
And you know what? And Albert Einstein also said, the trouble with kindness is that it's perceived as weakness. Well, that's just a sad thought there. Why is it essential for neither Jew nor Gentile to be permitted to forget the atrocities perpetrated by Nazi Germany during World War II?
I believe that we shouldn't be allowed to forget, but we have forgotten. And we look what's going on in the world in Somalia and Darfur and other regions of Africa, and we have not learned the lesson. We haven't learned the lessons of what unmitigated hatred can bring to our world. So it's an important message for everybody to spread. Because if we don't learn from the past, then we're going to be bound to live through it again. The only way we can do that is by educating our children. And unfortunately, we're in a state where the last of our Holocaust survivors are going to be passing away. And there's not going to be the interpersonal connection like I was able to have with survivors when I was younger. My children aren't going to have that opportunity. They're going to know it through interviews that are on videotape. They're going to know it through seeing movies. My children aren't going to know their grandfather who smuggled children their age from Israel into Germany, from Poland into Israel. They're not going to be able to see that firsthand. And so it's so important for us to be able to show our children the damage that hatred can cause. Whether it's hatred of your fellow man for whatever reason, it's not right. That's a lesson we need to teach our children so that we don't make the same mistakes throughout history.
Speaking of hatred, we live in a world today in which extremism, Islamic extremism, perpetrating atrocities against America and other parts of the world, the 9/11 attacks on the United States, locations all over the world subjected to Islamic terrorism. How do you see this threat as compared to others in the past?
Israel right now faces an existential threat from Hezbollah, from Hamas, even from Fatah, even though nobody wants to believe that. These countries want to push Israel into the sea the same way they did 40 years ago, the same way they did 50 years ago, the same way they've been trying since we've been around. We're not going to let them do it. And the way to do that is to have the best military in the world. It doesn't need to be the largest. It needs to be the best. We're not a big country. We need to be able to defend our borders. As American Jews, our job is to help support those soldiers. And what we try to do with Friends of the IDF is to make sure that those soldiers only need to concentrate on defending Israel, that they don't have to worry about where they're going to go when they get time off, because we will get the money together to send you and your entire battalion for a well-deserved week of R&R. We don't have to worry about what you're going to do after the Army, because we will get you the scholarships that you need. You don't have to worry about your family being taken care of. If your family needs to be taken care of, we will help you do that. And as American Jews, we have to put the resources that we have into something important, and that's to help these young boys and girls live to their full potential, to make sure that they make it through their Army experience, that they're not distracted by anything outside of what they need to do in protecting themselves and protecting the citizens in the state of Israel. And I was lucky enough this summer to be in Israel with my father, who moved to Israel in 1950 when he was 1.5 years old. And we went with my children, who range in age from 3 to 6. And he was telling me his story. He said, it's so amazing. I'm here with your kids, and your oldest is 6 years old. And he doesn't have a care in the world. To go to the beach, the biggest concern he has is whether he's going to get glida or when he's going to get ISIS today. And I remember being 6 years old, and my mother was a nurse working in the Army hospital. She left us with a neighbor. We had to dig ditches behind the house in case we had to run and hide from a bomb attack, and that was what we knew at 6 years old. And at 6 years old, your child doesn't know that, and I thank God every day that he doesn't. And really, I'm getting broken up now just repeating what he said, and it really meant a lot to me. To see what our brothers and sisters in Israel have to go through on a daily basis. And I've lived there. I've lived there through bus bombings. I've lived there through terrorist attacks, and it's a horrible thing to see. The only way that we can ensure a life of prosperity for our brothers and sisters in Israel is to make sure that we maintain a strong military. And not only that, an ethical military. I would like for you to name me one other military in the world that warns residents that we are going to bomb your city because of the insurgents living here, and then get out if you don't want to be hurt. Name me another country that does that. Nobody does. It's counterproductive. You're not inflicting as much damage as you can, but the Israeli army doesn't believe in inflicting damage for damage's sake. The Israeli army will only fight to protect its own. And no matter what any UN report says, and no matter what the Turks come back and say, or the Syrians or the Lebanese come back and say, we have to know and we have to be confident that our soldiers are there to protect us, and that nothing is going to stop them the same way nothing stops a mother from protecting her child.
Geil, you're speaking of the IDF and the need to maintain a strong Israel, and you're 100% right there. But there's another war. There's a media war. And if Israel loses more sympathy in the world due to the lies by omission perpetrated by the media, singling Israel out for criticism while ignoring worse crimes or worse events occurring elsewhere, half-truths and lies. Why is Israel being criticized so much? This new anti-Semitism called anti-Zionism. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on the anti-Zionism, it's the same anti-Zionism and the same anti-Semitism that's been around. It's always just taking a new face and finding a new reason for these lies and hatred to be spread against Israel. Why it happens, I don't know, other than the fact that people are looking for a scapegoat. And rather than focus on the fact that the countries that supply the United States with a majority of its oil live in such a state of affairs that 2% of the population has 98% of the wealth of the country, and to not focus on the fact that they need to keep people's attention diverted from that fact, they need a scapegoat. So it becomes the poor displaced Palestinians instead of the poor impoverished Saudis living under a government of tyranny, and the poor Afghanis living under Taliban law. What is easier to do is to demonize the Jews, because we've always been a popular scapegoat.
Gil, I'd like to discuss with you the point of the attempt in the world to delegitimize Israel. and how Israel is singled out a little more. I'd like to discuss this with you. And I was thinking about the last war in southern Lebanon, when Israel finally retaliated after thousands of rocket attacks against Israel. The world used the word disproportionate, using the device of a word disproportionate to describe Israel, and thereby pretend that Israel was the aggressor, whereas it actually was the victim. How do you explain this strange tendency of the world to isolate Israel?
Well, you know, I've always found the term disproportionate force to be a laughable term. It's farcical. If somebody is attacking you with a knife and you have a gun, are you not going to use the gun because they only have a knife? That makes absolutely no sense. And what it is, it's an attempt by major media outlets to demonize Israel. Why, I can't say. I wish I had a good reason to explain it. I wish I knew how to explain it to my own children. What I do know is that we have a responsibility to call media outlets on this when we see them doing it, to make sure that we write letters to the editor, to make sure that we call in with our disapproval, to make sure that we let their sponsors know that we disapprove of it. And the other side of that, to bring a positive to that negative, is that we also need to make sure that we support programs like yours and other programs that support a fair and balanced view of Israel. Am I going to tell you that Israel is 100% perfect in everything she does? No. I would be foolish if I were to say that. The Israelis can't even agree on what Israel stands for. But what we need is a fair and honest picture, and not a picture of grieving mothers on one side and bloodthirsty land grabbers on the other, because we know that's not reality. We know nothing is that black and white. Israel might make some mistakes, but she does a lot more right. If you look at the achievements in the world of science and the world of medicine just in the last 10 years, Israel has saved so many lives by her encouragement of the sciences and her encouragement of medicine, that the world would be in a much worse place without Israeli development.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about the 1967 borders and Friends of the IDF. Israeli soldiers were defending Israel before 1967, and the Arabs had all of the land that they allege that they want back, and that's all they really want. Some people ask why they would accept today the 1967 borders when they didn't back then. Why would Israel giving back more land lead to peace, in your opinion, or anyone's opinion, when they didn't agree to it back then?
My opinion, unfortunately, is that it won't. Israel needs to stand her ground. The city of Jerusalem shall never be split up again. If we want to trade some land for some peace, I am in favor of that, provided that we can still maintain a secure border, that we can maintain the security of the people living in Israel, both Arab and Jew alike. We need to protect people, but we cannot do it by just giving land away willy-nilly. It needs to be planned and structured. It needs to be set up for a secure border that will allow for freedom and life to flourish in the land of Israel.
From the point of view of Friends of the IDF, what message would you like to convey to our audience at this time?
What I'd like to convey to our audience again is how important it is for us as American Jews to support these soldiers. They're fighting a war for the very existence of Israel. Don't be lulled into thinking that any other country will be there to support you as a Jew. You have to know that as a Jew, if all else fails, Israel is there to protect us, and it's our job right now to help those who protect her.
Gil, this has been a great pleasure, and I salute you for your work for the Friends of the IDF. Let's hope for the very best for all of us.
Thank you very much for having me back.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
I'll be right back. This concludes our special show for today from On Location in South Florida in support of Friends of the IDF. I'm Richard Peritz. Thank you for being with us.